from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Joining to you live from the National News Studios, this is the National News Broadcast. I am Malsha Dharmavardhana together with Lakshita Edirisinghe. Another decisive discussion with the International Monetary Fund will take place on the 3rd of next month. Unloading of 13,000 metric tons of urea for the Maha season commences. Medicines and medical equipment worth more than 3 billion rupees given to Sri Lanka by Japan and China. The number of state welfare recipients increased to 3.5 million. North Korea prepares to test another atomic bomb. On to those and other stories in detail now, starting with your local stories. Another decisive discussion with the International Monetary Fund and Sri Lanka's creditors will take place on the 3rd of next month.
President's media division said that lengthy discussions are scheduled to take place on restructuring Sri Lanka's debt. This was disclosed during a discussion yesterday between a delegation of International Monetary Fund and the President's Head of Staff, Sagala Ratnayaka. IMF resident representative Tubagus Feridanu, who is leaving after completing his tenure, and new resident representative Sarwaz Jahan attended the discussion. A special attention has been paid on prior wishes on debt restructuring and about the creditors' summit. Mr. Ratnayak informed the IMF representatives that he expects to brief President Ranil Wickremesinghe about the details of the discussion and to inform them about his response soon. President's Senior Advisor on Economic Affairs, RHS Samaratunga, also attended the discussion.
Unloading of urea fertilizer from the first ship carrying 13,000 metric tons of fertilizer needing for the Maha season commenced today. Agriculture Minister Mahinda Amaraveera visited Colombo Harbour today to observe the situation. The World Bank provided a credit of $105 million to purchase urea fertilizer for Maha season. It is expected to purchase the total quantity of urea fertilizer for paddy and maize cultivations in the Maha season using the credit line. Representatives of the World Bank gave their support to maintain transparency of the tender process. Accordingly, steps have been taken to prevent any malpractices when purchasing fertilizer. The ships carrying urea fertilizer reached Colombo Harbour on the 26th. 2,500 to 3,000 metric tons of fertilizer are being unloaded daily. This stock of fertilizer is scheduled to be given to Batticaloa, Ampara and Trincomalee district for paddy cultivation. The second ship transporting 120,000 metric tons of urea fertilizer is scheduled to reach the country by last week of November. Accordingly, Minister pointed out there is no necessary to import rice in future.
China donated a stock of medicine worth 1.8 billion rupees to the country yesterday. Chinese ambassador in Sri Lanka, Ki Sheng Hong, handed over the stock of medicines to Minister Keheliya Rabukwella at the Health Ministry. Sri Lanka received the medicines under the second phase of the Chinese humanitarian aid program. Under the second phase of the second stage, Sri Lanka is scheduled to get medicines worth 3 billion rupees. Another 17 categories of medicines are scheduled to be received in due course. Meanwhile, during a discussion yesterday at Health Ministry, it was disclosed that the country is expected to get 231 categories of medicines through various methods. Deputy Director General of Medical Supplies Division, Dr. D.R. Keherath, said that the country is in possession of many categories of essential medicines. Minister Keheliya Rabukwella instructed officials to be prepared, especially paying attention to cancer patients, heart patients and pregnant mothers. Essential medical equipment worth 1.6 billion rupees was donated to Sri Lanka yesterday under the Social Economic Development Program of Japan. Japanese ambassador in Sri Lanka, Michikoshi Hideaki, handed over the donation to Minister Keheliya Rabukwella at the National Hospital premises.
The number of state welfare recipients have been increased to 3.5 million. 2,460,000 has been registered so far. Calling applications for the program to identify suitable persons and families to get welfare benefits from the government commenced in September and it ended today. Accordingly, benefits are scheduled to be given to persons expecting state welfare measures including Samurdhi, elders, disabled and kidney patients. The second phase of the program, which is taking a census by visiting the homes of applicants, will commence next month.
The State Literary Awards Ceremony 2022 was held this afternoon at the BMICH premises in Colombo under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. 40 state literary awards and 3 literary Ratna awards were presented, which are presented for once in a lifetime for the services rendered for literary, were presented on the occasion. President Ranil Wickremesinghe handed over literary Ratna awards to Professor Chandrasiri Pallyaguru, Professor Kamani Jayasekara and T. Gnanasekara. The souvenir and literary books of the ceremony were handed over to the guests, including the President. Buddhist monks, Minister Vidura Vikramanayaka, authors and veterans in the literary field attended the ceremony. The Elections Commission says that even if the President wants to dissolve the Parliament, there is no opportunity to do so until March, according to the current constitution.
Chairman of the Commission, Attorney at Law Nimal Punchiheva mentioned this during an interactive dialogue in Badulla. He also expressed his views on provincial councils and delimitations commission. Chairman of the Elections Commission, Attorney at Law Nimal Punchiheva said that under the present constitution, the Parliament cannot be dissolved until the 2nd of March, even if the President wanted to do so. A proposal should be passed with a majority in Parliament in this regard. The President has the right to accept or not to accept the proposal. During that period, the Commission cannot conduct an election. The Commission does not agree for an administration of office. 90 to 92% of the provincial council funds are used for recurrent expenditure. 0.03% of the annual revenue of the provincial council is allocated for public representatives. Delimitation has exceeded ethnic issues and electoral seats have been established according to caste basis, which is not favorable process to the society.
Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena has instructed officials to appoint a committee at the ministerial level to provide speedy solutions to the pensioners affected due to misplacing of their files due to various reasons. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena made a sudden inspection tour of the Pensions Department to look into the prevailing issues. This is the first occasion where a Prime Minister visited the Pensions Department. There are 689,770 pensioners in the country. Discussions took place on measures to prevent delays in paying pensions. State Minister Sisira Jayakode, Director General of Pensions Jagat Dias and a group of people were present on the occasion. The Netherlands government has paid its attention on providing Sri Lanka with expert agricultural technology. This was disclosed by Netherlands Ambassador in Sri Lanka, Bonnie Horbach, during a discussion with Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena yesterday at the Temple Trees. The Prime Minister appreciated the support given by Netherlands for agriculture and to develop infrastructure facilities. The Netherlands Ambassador said that her country has produced a new potato variety that can be cultivated in salty lands. She said those potato seeds can be given to be cultivated in areas near to sea in Sri Lanka, especially in the northern and eastern provinces. Meanwhile, the protest rally New Rise of the Struggle, organized by the Joint People's Movement, took place yesterday at Hyde Park in Colombo with the participation of people including trade union leaders.
Members of the struggle, private sector professionals, trade union members, university students and others took part in the protest. The protests have been organized urging to hold a general election and against suppression and selling of public property. The protesters demanding the government to provide solution to many problems including cost of living, increasing of water and electricity bills. The walk commenced from Lipton roundabout and reached Hyde Park. However, several trade unions which joined the struggle said that they were not invited to join the protest organized by the Joint People's Movement. Meanwhile, State Minister Ranjit Siambalapitiya says that some liquor trade joins to produce illegal liquor.
He mentioned this during an annual general meeting of Sri Lanka Excise Officers Union today. A group of people, including Commissioner General of Excise M.J. Gunasiri, were present on the occasion. State Minister Ranjit Siambalapitiya said that everyone should make certain sacrifices to overcome the present situation. Queues have been eliminated to a certain extent and some basic problems have been forgotten. A country with a -8% economic growth cannot move forward without a pressure. Illegal liquor production has been increased by 300%. Illegal liquor production using licenses has contributed to this situation. The University Grants Commission says they were able to increase the number of students to 42,500 this year, which was 30,000 during the last 3 years.
Chairman of the Commission, Professor Sampath Amaratunga, said this today while attending a media briefing to inform about the future activities of the Higher Education Ministry. Chairman of the University Grants Commission, Professor Sampath Amaratunga, said that nearly 300,000 sit for GCE Advanced Level Examination. Out of that number, about 180,000 qualify to enter universities. About 100,000 apply to enter the universities. He said that they have been able to meter out justice to some extent for the students in the prevailing circumstances.
Diplomatic faces the exclusive interview with the European Union Ambassador to Sri Lanka and the Maldives. His Excellency Denny Chaibi will be telecast on the 30th of October at 8:20 p.m. on ChannelEye. In the interview, the ambassador highlighted the quality and uniqueness of Sri Lankan export products that will extract more value. He also emphasized that social standards and labor standards in Sri Lanka is much higher than the rest of the countries in the Southeast Asian region.
Sri Lanka has a unique advantage of having the best of everything. If you look at the clothing, they do the most expensive pieces, the one that requires a lot of technology, such as sport equipment or bras or things that are really the upmarket. This quality is certainly there for agricultural products. Obviously, the tea is the best, everyone knows it. Ceylon tea has no rival, but more than that, cinnamon. All around the world, people consume cassia and don't know that this is a poor ersatz of cinnamon. What the EU has done, it has financed the classification of cinnamon as a geographic indication. Now only Sri Lanka can sell or export Ceylon cinnamon, which has very different properties from cassia. The cinnamon is sold for almost 8 times the price of cassia. By attaching this label of quality and uniqueness to Sri Lanka, it can get much better prices. And that's the aim. The tambili is simply the best. I've never had such a nice coconut anywhere around the world like here, the juice, which is now very much favored by all high-level sports people. So for every single product, we can come up with a strategy that will extract far more value and define Sri Lanka as a luxury product. It can be that for tourism. Wellness is quite upmarket. I think that is the way for the relations between Sri Lanka and the EU. Then another very important element for the product is that social standard, labor standards in Sri Lanka are much higher than in the rest of the region. So therefore, in an environment where people are much more wary of the conditions in which the product has been produced and exported, this very high standards is certainly a favorable element for the Sri Lankan economy.
The message to commemorate the 99th anniversary of the proclamation of the Republic of Turkey by the Ambassador of Turkey to Sri Lanka and Maldives, Her Excellency Rakib Demit, will be telecasted tomorrow just after the English News Bulletin on ChannelEye.
In line with her founding principle, peace at home, peace in the world, Turkey works to help establish an order which will pave the way for peace, prosperity, human development, lasting stability and security in her region and beyond. To achieve her enduring objective, Turkey is implementing an enterprising and humanitarian policy by extending her helping hand to those in need around the world through her humanitarian assistance. One of the recent examples of such an assistance has been 3 consignments of drug and medical equipment donated by the Turkish government for the use of Sri Lankan Health Ministry. Sri Lanka is considered as a valuable partner and friend within this new initiative launched in 2019.
The 5th edition of Race the Pearl, a 24-hour cycling race that covers the entire 600 kilometers of Sri Lanka, will take place on the 5th of November. The race will commence from the point of Pedro. Race the Pearl will consist of 6 international cyclists and 2 Sri Lankans. Over 50 more participants are expected to join teams in relay style. The route will consist of 5 stages before it reaches the finishing point in Dondra Head. Significantly, Race the Pearl has been included as a qualifier for the upcoming Race Across America, a globally renowned ultra-distance road cycling race that covers over 4,800 kilometers from west coast to the east coast. Race the Pearl is one of many high-octane mini ultra-distance road cycling races. The organizers of the Race Across America have found it as a fitting event to name as a qualifier, besides many other races which cover similar distances as the local event.
This race is once again happening for the 5th time from Point Pedro all the way 600 kilometers down to Point Dondra. It's an international race because this is a qualifier for the prestigious Race Across America, and everyone who finished this in 24 hours, they will qualify for this amazing race in the world. So we have 5 international participants who are going to do the full distance this year. 1 from US, a lady, 3 from UK, and 1 French gentleman, and a lot of Sri Lankans are involved as individuals or as relay teams. This race shows the world the beauty of this country. From north to south, our wildlife, this is a tourism product to promote Sri Lanka. In challenging times, we got to do what we have to do. So you too can support this race. Watch it on Facebook and Instagram of Race the Pearl. Website is www.racethepearl.com. If you're on the road side, Jaffna to down south, please come on the 5th and see how these riders are doing amazing things.
Ironman also the international events, international brand. Then Red Amazons, that's also the international brands. So this time I want to convince you all, actually we need to support to promote this Race the Pearl as the international brand. In order to actually maintain these international brands, we need to apply 4 factors. The one is the competitive price with the very good productivity. The second one is the quality. The quality also very important. The third one is the on-time delivery and the innovation. Those are the factors we need to get the competitive advantage and the comparative advantage for any events or the business or the activity. So I think in order to build this as an international brand, we need to consider those factors.
I'm really pleased to be here, and I just want to take it all down a little bit to a much more personal level. Back in January, a young cyclist friend of mine said, "Oh, Race the Pearl, what about it?" And I was like, yes, let's have a go, let's give it a shot. There was just the 2 of us when we started, and then we scratched around. We found 2 more people, so we were a small team, and we had to do a lot of chat about the technicalities of who was going to ride, which section, how we were going to use the power plays, which was a fantastic innovation. As you can see, I'm not an elite sports person. I took up cycling about 2 years ago. We had our team, and we just thought, well, we'll finish. Whatever happens, we'll just get to Dondra Head. And then, in the middle of the night, we realised we were on course to do it within the 24 hours. So we were so excited. So it was a brilliant experience. The whole experience, the sort of machine, the excitement, everybody involved. It was brilliant. And I've just spoken about it to my family. And so, this year, 2 members of my family are coming from the UK to take part in this, in the race.
On to some news reports in brief. Minister Kanchana Vijayasekara says that the Petroleum Production Special Provision Bill, which passed with amendments in Parliament, is effective from the 26th. The minister, in a Twitter message, said that the new suppliers will be able to enter the local market to sell petroleum products by the end of this year. Six petitions have been filed in Supreme Court requesting to declare the England Revenue Amendment draft bill presenting in Parliament by the government in against the Constitution. The Attorney General has been named as a respondent. The petitioners have been filed by the High Court Judges Association, Sri Lanka Judicial Officers Association and some citizens. Minister Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa made an inspector of the Valikada prison today. He made a sudden visit and exchanged some views with inmates. A discussion took place at the President's Secretariat yesterday to build a new hospital in Wellness Village concept close to Biyagama Hospital. Wellness Village concept will be implemented in the country for the first time according to a concept of President, and the primary objective is to promote medical tourism. That's it on local news. Coming up next is international news.
සීගේට පුළුවන් නම් මටත් පුළුවන්. සීගේට පුළුවන් නම් මටත් පුළුවන්. සීගේට පුළුවන් නම් මටත් පුළුවන්. සීගේට පුළුවන් නම් අපි හැමෝටම පුළුවන්. 100% දේශීය නැවුම් එළකිරිවල පෝෂණය. ප්‍රීමා ස්ටෙලා සෙට් යෝගට්.
ජය ගන්න වැඩි වෙන්න.
වෙනස් වූ මානයන්ගෙන් දකින NB Luxury Designer Wear.
அப்பாட ஒரே கனவா இருந்தது நான் ஒரு டாக்டர் ஆகிறது பார்க்கறது தான். ஆனாலும் அதுக்கு முன்னமே அப்பா கண்ணை மூடிட்டார். மெடிக்கல் காலேஜை கண்டு வேதனை அடைஞ்ச என்ற வாழ்க்கையை மாத்தினது மகாபுல புலமை பரிசில். ஒரு வைத்தியரா நிறைய நோயாளிகளோட வாழ்க்கைக்கு ஒளியூட்டுறது மகாபுல இந்த வாழ்க்கைக்கு ஒளியூட்டியதால தான்.
மகாபுல புலமை பரிசுகளை வழங்க சக்தியாக திகழ்ந்தது. நீங்கள் செலவிட்ட ₹20 என்பதை அறிவீர்களா?
Come back. Taking a look at your international story, and it's a story from North Korea. North Korea has fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles towards the Sea of Japan, also known as the East Sea, South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff and national media said.
South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff said it detected the launchers from the Tongchon area in Gangwon province. South Korea's military is maintaining a full readiness posture in close cooperation with the United States, Joint Chiefs of Staff said in a text message sent to reporters. The Tongchon launch site is located some 60 kilometers from the inter-Korean border. The area was apparently closer to South Korean territory than any other launch location that North Korea had used so far this year. Japan's Kyodo news agency said the missiles were fired towards the Sea of Japan but had landed outside Japan's exclusive economic zone, which extends up to 200 nautical miles.
Meanwhile, foreign media reports that the world's richest man, Elon Musk, completed his United States $44 billion takeover of Twitter. Elon Musk tweeted the bird is free in an apparent reference to the deal. A number of top executives, including the boss Parag Agrawal, have reportedly been fired. Reuters news agency says Mr. Agrawal and 2 other executives were escorted out of Twitter's San Francisco headquarters yesterday. The completion of the deal brings to an end months of legal wrangling, but it is prompting questions of the platform's future direction. Chief Financial Officer and the firm's top legal and policy executive are leaving alongside Mr. Agrawal, according to US media reports.
Parts of France and Spain are seeing an unusually warm late October. Heat waves have become more frequent and more intense and last longer because of human-induced climate change. It may also be a sign of changing weather patterns after a summer which saw extreme heat in Europe with ferocious wildfires and droughts. The world has already warmed by about 1.1 degrees Celsius since the industrial era began, and temperatures will keep rising unless governments around the world make steep cuts to emissions. The United Nations has warned there is no credible pathway to keep the rise in global temperatures below the key threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Meanwhile, the Philippines disaster officials say landslides and flooding have killed at least 31 people and 9 others remaining missing as heavy rain from approaching tropical storms called Nagale. Torrential rainstorms unleashed flash flooding overnight that carried uprooting trees, rocks and mud into rural communities around a city of 300,000 people on Miando Island. Meanwhile, the world faces probably the most dangerous decade since the end of the World War II. Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned.
In a wide-ranging speech, he sought to justify Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a move that has left his country internationally isolated. Russian President Vladimir Putin also accused the West of nuclear blackmail against Russia to force allies to turn away from Moscow. The West has denounced recent veiled nuclear threats by the Kremlin. The NATO military alliance condemned unsubstantiated claims by Russia that Ukraine might use a dirty bomb, conventional explosives laced with radioactive material.
இப்படி வந்திட இப்படி அல்பங்கள் Prima Katami Fantamai.
Sports news, and it's cricket. Pakistan team lost for the second time in the second round of the Super 12 round of the T20 World Cup series. They played against Zimbabwe yesterday.
The match was played in Perth, Australia. Batting first, Zimbabwe scored 130 runs for 8 wickets in 20 overs. Sean Williams scored 31, Mohammad Wasim took 4 wickets and Shadab Khan took 3 wickets. Thereafter, chasing a target of 131 runs, Pakistan lost the match by just 1 run after a tight competition. Shan Masood scored 44, Mohammad Nawaz scored 22, Sikandar Raza took 3 wickets. The match between Ireland and Afghanistan of the T20 World Cup was abandoned due to bad weather. The match was scheduled to be played in Melbourne, Australia. Both teams received 1 bonus point and Ireland team came up to the second place in bonus points table. The match between Sri Lanka and New Zealand in the T20 World Cup series will be played tomorrow in Sydney. The match will be played under Group 1, which is stopped by New Zealand. Sri Lanka and New Zealand have played 19 T20 matches so far and New Zealand has won 10 matches out of that. Tomorrow's match is decisive for the Sri Lankan team.
Now, meanwhile, the netball tournament organized by the Mercantile Services Netball Association was played at the St. Joseph's College, Colombo.
More than 20 teams took part in the tournament, which was conducted under A, B and C groups. The final match was played between HNB and Ceylon Bank teams. HNB won the championship by scoring 68 to 35.
இப்படி வந்திட இப்படி அல்பங்கள் Prima Katami Fantamai.
And with that, we conclude tonight's news on Rupavahini. Do join us tomorrow at the very same time. Good night.
Good night.